Karen marched over before dawn, clipboard in hand and fury in her eyes. Your grass is 2¼ inches, she declared like it was a crime scene. Violation of Section 5.4. Mow it within 24 hours or face a fine. I blinked at my lush front yard, evidence of my new no-mow meadow experiment. Dandelions waved hello. Butterflies danced. It was a mini ecosystem out there until Karen's lawn Nazi patrol screeched to life. That afternoon, I found the official ticket on my doormat, $100. Not pocket change, but not enough to bankrupt me. Still, the principle stung. Mowing would erase my wildflower patch, undo all my late-night composting, and send earthworms screaming for cover. I toyed with the idea of trimming a tiny path, but Karen would measure it with her ruler and fine me anyway. I needed a grand gesture, something so over the top she'd never see coming. By twilight, I had a plan. If she insisted on yard rules, I'd turn my yard into a lawn that couldn't be measured by a ruler, the kind of lawn so clearly not grass that Section 5.4 would be irrelevant. I scoured the internet, found cheap plastic turf rolls, mini flags, and put green cups. By 8 p.m., I rented a pallet of AstroTurf and a 6-hole mini golf set. I wore my oldest sweatpants and a headlamp that made me look like a deranged gopher. Neighbors peeked from windows as I rolled out bright green turf over every inch of grass. I hammered plastic posts with colored flags into the ground. I carved 4 sand traps using beach sand from Home Depot. I installed tiny windmills on halved soda bottles. I laid out a winding course with numbered holes and even spray-painted arrows pointing toward my front door. At midnight, I positioned my final piece, a large, jolly sign reading, "Putt Putt Paradise, open dawn till dusk." No HOA bylaw mentioned lawn or yard anymore. This was a recreation area. Sunrise brought screams, Karen's. She flew across the street, robe flapping, phone already in hand to document further violations. But when she stepped onto my turf, her jaw dropped. What the hell is this? I poured her a cup of coffee on my porch swing and said, "Karen, I find my own yard. I'm not mowing." She read the sign. "This is not grass," she sputtered. "You can't just turn a lawn into a golf course." I smiled wide. Why not? Where does Section 5.4 cover licensed miniature golf? Besides, you never gave me a permit for mini golf. She whipped out her bylaws. I watched her flip pages, sweat beading at her hairline. She frowned at the words grass height and parking of inflatable ghosts, but nothing about putting green. I offered her a free round. Cradling her clipboard like a shield, she forced a swing and missed the hole by 3 feet. A slow clap rose from onlookers. The kids next door squealed, chasing their golf balls down the sidewalk. My wife poured orange juice. Biscuit barked encouragement at every swing. Karen sputtered a threat. "I'm calling a special hearing," I patted the green. "Knock yourself out. I'll be hosting bake sales between holes 2 and 3. She stomped off, but glanced back at the course with a mix of fury and fascination. The rest of the neighborhood spilled into the street, crowding my fairway. Even Mrs. Patel from 12B lined up her putt. Mr. Johnson parked his walker by the bunker. Laughter rang through the morning air. By lunchtime, social media lit up with neighbor selfies on my front lawn. Putt 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 pandemonium trended in our subdivision's Facebook group. Karen's threats got lost in shared videos of kids holing out and teens attempting trick shots over sprinkler hazards. My phone buzzed nonstop. One local news reporter texted, "Mind if I film your course?" I sent her a picture of the sign. Putt Putt Paradise, all are welcome except lawn Nazis. Late that day, I found a new notice on my door, "Cease mini golf or face a $500 fine." I grinned. She'd finally resorted to higher fines. Just what I wanted. Because tomorrow, I'd unveil Phase 2, the 9-hole championship course, complete with water hazard where Karen parks her car. Let the games begin. Next morning, Karen marched back. She wore her Sunday best, even though it was a Tuesday. I stood by hole 1, club in hand. Biscuit sat nearby, tongue out, ready to bark. "This is illegal," Karen shouted. She pointed at the turf. "You can't just install a golf course in your front yard." I smiled. "Where does it say no mini golf?" I asked. "Show me in the rules." She flipped through her HOA binder. Pages flew. She mumbled something about grass, nothing on golf. She slammed the book shut, so I did a quick demo. I sank a putt on hole 1, then on hole 2. Neighbors clapped. One child cheered, "Go, mister." Kids ran with their clubs. Even Mrs. Patel from 12B chipped in once. Karen tried to call an emergency HOA meeting. She banged on my door. I gave her a free putt. She swung and whiffed. Turf smacked her shoe. She yanked it off. Green fibers stuck to her socks. She glared. I led her to hole 3. I showed her the sand trap. You need a rake, I said. I handed her a tiny rake. She started to sweep. Sand went everywhere. She lost her balance. I caught her arm, not a shove, just a gentle grip. She gasped and huffed. Later, she filed a new fine, obstruction of sidewalk by golf flags. She left it on my door. I laughed and tossed it in the compost bin. That afternoon, word spread. Neighbors came by. They brought pizza and chairs. They paid $1 a round. All proceeds went to the new community garden. Karen was cut out of profits. She stood on her porch, arms crossed, looking furious. Then I held a tee-off for charity event. A local pizza truck showed up. A DJ played summer hits from the roof of a van. I sold glow-in-the-dark golf balls for $1 each. People lined up at hole 4. Kids missed on purpose just to laugh and cheer. Even the mailman took a turn. Karen called 911. She said a public nuisance was underway. 2 officers strolled in. They watched a group play hole 5. One cop tapped his boot. "Looks harmless," he said. "You got permits?" I shrugged. "It's my yard." They tipped their hats and left. Next day, a new HOA notice arrived. Cease golfing or face $250 fine per day. I pinned it to my fridge. It covered half the door. I grabbed a marker and wrote underneath, Permit-MG 2025 approved by Logic. At dusk, I set up hole 6 by flashlight. I dug a small pond from an old tire and lined it with river stones. I filled it with water and plastic ducks. I carved ducks' names on stones: Karen, Billy, Patel, Tanner. Biscuit barked twice if he knew they were all lucky ducks for living here. Karen watched from her window. I saw her silhouette. She pulled down her blinds. But I heard her whisper, "This is madness." Then came the big move. I announced Midnight Mini Masters on our community board. At midnight, families showed up with flashlights and glow sticks. We played hole 7 under the moon. Hole 8 had a ramp made from old wood pallets. Someone taped a toy car to the ramp and called it Karen's cart. Everyone laughed. Karen tried to sneak out and smash the turf. She tripped over a putter and fell face first into hole 9. Turf ripped under her knees. She stood up, turf stuck to her pants. She howled, "I quit," and stomped off. Neighbors cheered her exit. They took selfies on her former turf. Some kids wrote chalk messages, "Bye, Karen. Fairways, not fines." By sunrise, the course was packed. I walked through with Biscuit. I admired my work. 6 holes in the grass-free yard. A crowd of happy people. Not a single blade of grass in sight. Phase 2, I thought, will be the big reveal. A 9-hole championship course, complete with a water hazard, right over Karen's driveway. By now, the mini golf course was the talk of the block. Every morning, I woke up to kids racing for hole 1, adults lining up for hole 2, and Biscuit herding stray golf balls back to the tee. The course looked so legit, even local bloggers showed up, snapping photos of my pet pineapple decorations. Karen, of course, was furious. One afternoon, she stomped over wearing a hazmat suit and a respirator mask. "This turf is toxic," she screamed, waving a chemical test strip like a wand. "It's artificial, full of plastics." I leaned on my putter. "Where do you see garbage cans banned?" She slapped me with a new fine for environmental hazard. I tossed it in the compost bin. Then came the big twist. I tipped off the city's Parks and Rec department that I'd found a loophole. Any private recreational course within the city was eligible for a small business grant. Next week, I had papers in hand and a check for $500. I used it to buy solar-powered fairy lights and a windmill obstacle for hole 7. Karen watched me buy supplies from her porch like a hawk suffering from whiplash. Neighbors started donating features. Mrs. Patel dropped off a pirate ship from her grandkids' sandbox. Mr. Johnson painted cutout targets for hole 4. Teenagers sold lemonade from a stand labeled Caddyshack Refreshments. Even the postal carrier joined in, delivering mail with a smile and a free put each morning. The course was evolving into a full-blown carnival. Karen tried one last stunt. She called the county sanitation crew and claimed the turf was blocking storm drains. At dawn, 3 guys in orange vests arrived with shovels and chainsaws. They started digging at hole 3's bunker. I jogged over with instructions. "No, that's a sand trap." We argued while the crew inspected the drain. Real drain was clean. They packed up, shaking their heads. That evening, I hosted a glow-in-the-park event. I lined the fairway edges with glow sticks, hung string lights over hole 5, and handed out neon golf balls. Dozens showed up in pajamas holding flashlights. We played by moonlight, laughing through the empty streets. Karen peered through her blinds, face gray in the glow, as neighbors cheered each holed putt. Next morning, I found a thick envelope on my door. Inside was a summons. Civil infringement suit filed by Karen Franklin against Jared Tanner, alleging nuisance, trespass, and unauthorized business operation. For a moment, my smile froze. A lawsuit meant lawyers and fees. But then I remembered the grant papers, the HOA notice banning mini golf operators. It didn't apply here. I slipped the papers into my pocket and walked to hole 6, ready to chip my worries away. Back at home, I called a friend who happened to be an entertainment lawyer. He laughed so hard he almost choked on his coffee. "She's suing over miniature golf in your front yard?" he asked. "That's so petty it needs a reality show." He agreed to represent me pro bono if she pushed the suit. I thanked him and hung up. By lunchtime, the neighborhood group chat was wild. Someone made a gif of Karen in her hazmat suit. Another wrote a poem about the lady who banned lawn toys. I posted an update. Lawsuit pending, but course stays open. Hole 9 still free drinks. Neighbors reacted with firework emojis and "I'm in" messages. The community had bonded over cheap plastic turf and a shared enemy. Karen's lawsuit gave me exactly what I needed: more publicity. I called a local news station and offered an interview. Tonight at 6, they'd broadcast my story. Grass gone to mini golf. Neighbors unite against HOA tyranny. I kicked back on my porch with Biscuit at my side, watching the sunset turn hole 8's windmill into a glowing silhouette. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and hearings, but tonight we had glow sticks, laughter, and one unstoppable mini golf revolution. Court day finally arrived. Normally I dread lawyers and fees, but after everything, I was oddly excited. I rolled out to my front yard, the mini golf course. Weeks worth of fairy lights still twinkled at hole 5. The pirate ship creaked in hole 2, and the pond at hole 6 glistened. Neighbors milled around wearing custom putt-putt paradise shirts. Even Biscuit strutted in a bow tie. At the municipal courthouse, Karen sat at the plaintiff's table clutching her lawsuit folder like it was a winning lottery ticket. Her lawyer, that entertainment guy from my contacts, looked more like a carnival barker than a serious attorney. I scanned the packed gallery. Half the neighborhood showed up. Kids on scooters, Mrs. Patel in her Sunday hat, Craig holding a sign that read "Justice for Mini Golf." Judge Ramirez entered. He wore reading glasses low on his nose and a friendly smile. "Case number 4523, Franklin v. Tanner. Miss Franklin, you allege nuisance and unauthorized business. Mr. Tanner, you deny all." He pounded his gavel. Karen stood first. "Your Honor, this yard is illegal. Traffic, noise, children." She flapped her hands. "It's a circus. My property value has plummeted." She paused for dramatic effect. The judge blinked once, then I stood. I wore a polo and khakis, business casual meets golf pro. "Your Honor, this is a private yard. The turf isn't grass. HOA rules apply to vegetation, not recreation. I filed proper permits for small business grants. Traffic, 5 cars a day tops. Noise, friendly putts and laughter. Our neighbors love it." I gestured to the crowd. They cheered. The judge smiled. My lawyer spoke next. "We have expert testimony from Parks and Rec, grant approval letters, and video footage showing no disturbances." He handed over binders. The judge flipped through pages faster than a blackjack dealer. The defense tried one more tactic, but Miss Franklin invested in drones to monitor my client's yard. They claimed surveillance harassment. I almost laughed. My lawyer countered, "Those were toy quadcopters sold online. No evidence they recorded anything." The judge tossed that claim aside. 20 minutes later, the judge cleared his throat. "After reviewing evidence, I find no legal basis for this suit. The mini golf course complies with city ordinances and HOA covenants. Miss Franklin's claims are dismissed. Miss Franklin may owe costs for frivolous filing." He nodded to the clerk, who handed me a small stack of papers. Karen's suit was thrown out, and she faced a modest fine for court costs. Karen's face turned white. She opened her mouth to protest, but the judge said, "Court is adjourned." Outside, the neighborhood erupted into applause. Craig high-fived me so hard we both almost fell. Mrs. Patel handed out homemade cookies shaped like golf balls. A news reporter ran up with a microphone, capturing the moment. "Local man wins epic mini golf lawsuit." My friendly grin made TV. Biscuit barked twice on cue. Karen stormed out of the courthouse, clutching her folder, mascara barely holding on. She refused interviews and hopped into her car, tires screeching like a tuba solo. Word was she sold her house days later and moved to a distant suburb, far from our putt-putt paradise. Back home, I reopened the course with a Champions Day celebration. We hung a banner at hole 9 in honor of fair play and gifted free rounds to everyone who helped. I installed a permanent sign listing local bylaw citations that allowed mini golf. It read, Rule 5.4, grass measured only where green is natural. As the sun set, neighbors gathered for a glow-in-the-dark tournament, sipping lemonade and munching cookies. Kids held glow sticks, racing for hole 1. Biscuit chased after rogue balls. Laughter echoed off the plastic windmill at hole 7. I stood at my porch, soaked in golden light, thinking how a fine over grass height turned into a wildly successful public attraction. Karen tried to crush my joy, but she ended up financing our fairy lights and fountain jets with her court costs fine. Karma had never tasted so sweet. And every time someone sank that final putt, we cheered not just for mini golf, but for community, creativity, and sticking it to the clipboard tyrant. The end.